Dance, dance, dance. Don't I wish I could dance?
Oh, okay. Awesome.
How to populate a multiverse. But all first, we have the bit of things to love and hate about the Oddball Dragons, kind of a combo thing. Because we did it before with things the players like, and we're gonna get to it. We're being reminded to shill some more.
Yep.
Go to the YouTubes, press the buttons, press the bells. Damn it, get the notifications. Oh, for God's sakes, go ahead and do this subscribe thing. It's $5 a month. It's less than 1 cup of coffee a month. Come on.
Or just follow.
You can also, well, okay, great. You know what, follows are good, but you want the subscriptions too. And make sure you hit the notification button when you get the follow, so you get the notification that we're going online, so you can come in here, we can bug you again. Now that we've shilled, we're supposed to do, we normally do things the players like, things the DM hates. But what I wanted to do was the things the players and the DMs like and hate about the oddball dragon type characters and other dragons.
I think we could totally go like a little more amorphous with it and just be like pros and cons of like, yeah, in whatever perspective.
I think one of the biggest pros that I have as the DM for having the neutral dragons and breaking out the strange ones is the fact that it isn't the same old shit in the same old day.
Yeah, I agree. And it also kind of keeps players on their toes. You know, you might get players that they know exactly what a green dragon does or whatever. But you throw those odd ones out there, they don't know anything about it.
No.
Well, hopefully. Yeah, unless you get the metagamer that, you know, goes and looks it up. Yeah, which is a pain.
It's pretty obvious to me when somebody, you know, jumps out there and does that kind of bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get you one too, Kay? Did you get you one too? What'd you get? What'd you get? King of the North? Queen of the North? Good drink. AFK does have amazing drinks. Come out here and drink some, damn it. All of you. Responsibly for hours at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Trish, I'm going to leave that alone for the sake of decency. Now, pros and cons. Cons of Oddball Dragons. They really fuck up the meta.
A little bit. I mean, I think the big con with them would be that, like, in newer editions, you're not going to find them statted out in like an official capacity. However, it's not that hard to find homebrew ones that are built really well, so it's not that big a deal.
Okay. Pros for Dragonborns. There aren't any.
I don't know. I don't know. I've had a couple Dragonborn players in my games, and they've been fine.
I don't believe you.
You know, nothing to get excited about. You know, but
No, the serious issue for me is the one time I had a Dragonborn character in a game that I was running for a 3rd edition group. My God. Dude just snapped the game over his knee and threw it out the window. It was and stomped on it a few times. It was bad.
yeah, luckily that's been fixed. So you know, you can totally have a Dragonborn player in a 5th ed game, and it's not going to break the game at all.
Thank God, because it was terrible when it came out. One of the things, a pro for having oddball dragon archetypes, besides it just not being the same old shit, but it's almost the same thing in its own way. You don't have to build things the same way. You don't have to create the multiverse. Like the standard multiverse is the dragons are either the children of magic or the children of nature and the world. They're a reflection of the natural cycle of the planet. Well, you could toss that idea on its ear with all these weirdo dragons, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can throw it out there any way you want. And you don't have to get into the whole Tiamat versus Bahamut sort of thing.
Ugh.
Which, I mean, is cool if that's where you want to go with it.
Opal, ruby, onyx, all that
But if you're done with
bullshit.
all that, then, you know, you can do it however you want.
You were talking about with the multiverse and discussing dragon deities and how mechanisms shape new world build influence current meta. Now, I've always favored Tiamat not being the goddess of the evil dragons. I've always favored her being just sort of this random shit stick that shows up and throws a monkey wrench in the world.
Yeah, that works too. I don't know. As much as I didn't really like the Tyranny of Dragons campaign.
Oh, good.
Some of the concepts were pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, Tiamat isn't just showing up on the prime material and kicking the crap out of everything. There's a whole huge arc that leads up to it where, you're kind of sniffing out some stuff about these dragon cultists and stuff, and it turns out it's bigger than you thought, and there's all this going on that ultimately leads up to events which, result in Tiamat being freed and possibly, coming onto the prime material for a little bit, or wherever you end up going to, kick her ass. And that was kind of cool.
See, I tossed the idea out of Bahamut and Tiamat being the dragon deities. I tossed it out in the early part of my DMing career. I made them, the ultimate examples of their type of species. If you screwed up so badly you ended up in one of their courts face down, you were going to be lucky to walk away alive.
Right.
All right. But I used Opal, Onyx, and Ruby for my dragon deities. Obviously Onyx, evil, and Opal neutral, and I'm sorry, Opal good, Ruby neutral. Sorry, my apologies. But I did that because I wanted something a little bit different, because I had a lot of players who, when I talked about dragons, sort of assumed that was what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And then they found out that it wasn't the case. We were going to do something different. They were very, it would kind of, flip things on their ear a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that with the neutral dragons as the deities, it wasn't the eternal struggle of good versus evil. It was what benefits dragonkind.
Right. I kind of like the idea of why not both. So you've got, these multiple factions. You've got your evil followers of Tiamat. You've also got your evil followers of the Onyx Dragon, and they don't like each other, at all.
Yeah.
So now you can have interwarring factions going on with that. So maybe some of the neutral dragons are kind of stuck in the middle of this.
And then you end up with the followers of Bahamut and the followers of Opal, them not getting along on a liturgical basic.
Right.
Maybe one of them's anti-hierarchical and one's not.
Yeah, maybe they're not going to fight each other, but they're not exactly helping each other to win the, fight against all the evil ones. Maybe one side wants to go fight them, the other side feels that, you just let them do their thing, they'll wipe each other out maybe, and then we can clean up the mess later.
Right.
You could do all kinds of things story-wise with it.
Like I said, the cool part about taking the theology of the dragons and turning it into something different is that you can use it to shape the way the multiverse comes in. Because if you remember something, this is funny, and I've always remembered this as long as I lived. Anytime you had a bad guy who had a dragon for a symbol, it was a green dragon, a black dragon, or a red dragon. Mm-hmm. It was on their shield or on their tabard or something, right? And inevitably, when you found Captain Shiny Tooth or Lady Shiny Teeth, because the guys only have one tooth, they had a gold dragon or a silver dragon or something pretty and something beautiful and nice. And they've always presented this thing as ugly and versus pretty and evil. But it was funny because that shaped the cosmology or the whole center of the society that dealt with dragons in the lore, okay? So when you change the lore, how do you change the representative? In other words, you have your Bahamut, you have your gold dragon, we are the best. And then you have the ones that follow the Opal dragon, and it's more of the idea of, maybe they took the idea of where Opal was what's best for dragonkind, and these people took it as and used that cosmology, if you will, to bring themselves to a place where maybe they're a bit more of a utopian society in their own sense. Maybe they're a bit more group-oriented versus single-oriented. And so, again...
That's exactly how you bring it into your campaign.
Yeah.
You do exactly that.
You can use it to shape, I said, the entire cosmology. And it's funny because I remember there was a guy a lot of years ago that I played with, and he was a terrible player. He just absolutely sucked. He was just... he didn't play well with the group. He didn't play well with me. He didn't play well with Dill. He didn't play well with any of the GMs. And then about 5 years later, he sat down and he walked up and he says, "I'd like to find some players for a game I wrote." And I thought, the hell, I'll give it a shot. God, he was a great DM.
That happens.
He couldn't
sometimes,
follow
man.
worth a shit, but my God, he could lead. You know what I mean? And he wrote a campaign based on a dragon world. And let me make it very clear, it was a high magic realm. It was a mid-tack realm. And they were riding dragons for fucking steeds. They had these dragons that had been bred with no wings to pull wagons.
Oh, nice.
Horses were just there to feed the dragons. You know?
Because what do you need horses for?
Yeah,
If
you have
you've got
dragons.
to ride. Yeah.
And he wrote it was an absolutely masterfully done, well balanced, albeit first edition,
Sure.
world with these dragons involved. It was very Dragon's Lance, but a bit more advanced and turned on.
Yeah.
And he created the entire cosmology of the religion of the crystal sphere that you were involved in around the draconic lore. The dragons themselves, the higher ones, were the over deities because they represented the whole health of the world itself.
Right.
In other words, Onyx wasn't necessarily evil. She was just concerned with these things. And she made probably harsher decisions. Damn it, the strong are going to survive and the weak are going to go away. My children may be fewer in number, but they'll be much more stronger in the long run.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ruby, who's playing in the middle of the road, who's the one fostering all the humans and dribbling he's the Prometheus. Right? And then you have Opal, who's very aloof and very, what is best for the world, and I'm above such petty moral concerns. And it was fucking brilliant. And frankly, I was flabbergasted. The guy blew my mind away. I was like, damn. And he had used he had taken the draconic lore, he turned it around, and he turned it into a whole new thing. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. Sorry.
Sounds like a good way to do it.
I got choked up.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of ways you can use any kind of dragon you want to add to the story, and I think that's a big thing that some DMs miss is where does so okay you want your players to encounter a dragon. Where do you start? I think it's kind of a cop-out to just, here's a cave, there's a dragon that lives in it, and you gotta get a rumor that there's a dragon.
No
that
shit. That's horrible. I will admit that, and on some of my days,
I think every DM's done it.
I have just went, there's a dragon over there. You want to go kill it? Let's go. Fuck it. Roll dice.
Yeah.
Because, you're not always at your best, every
Right.
day you DM a game.
But
There's got to be something else.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about there, and a lot of it just kind of flows naturally. Look at the personality of the dragon and things like that. That'll kind of inform you as to what kind of lair it's going to live in, what kind of things it's going to have around its lair, what kind of effects, like regional effects, is that dragon going to have.
Now, let's dovetail to the next section.
Right.
Viable dragon lair. Now, I want to use something in particular, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to read the entry here because it's very important. I think we get a fairly idea of what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is a neutral dragon. It's called an amber dragon. It is a herbivore. It only exists on tree sap. It's exceptionally intelligent. It's a neutral dragon, and it's one of the few dragons that has incidental treasure. It doesn't keep a lair. It doesn't keep a treasure trove. Now, these guys are the most solitary and aloof of all neutral dragons. They wander through heavily forested regions they call home. Although not unfriendly, they are closely attuned to their natural surroundings, and their moods often reflect the capricious nature of the elements. Thick bark-like scales, blah, 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 blah. Amber dragons dwell alone in large primitive coniferous forests. They make no permanent lair, but range throughout a thickly carpeted expanse, often in areas large as 900 square miles. Unlike most dragons, they regard gold and other metallic objects with disdain. They do not hoard material treasure, thus any found by an amber dragger is purely incidental. They're not exactly territorial, but they're known to quickly dispatch creatures to enter the forest with hostile intent. They are a quote-unquote defender of the forest. However, they only eat sap. What happens is they have a gigantic horn on the prow of their nose, and they jam it into the tree like a sap
Right.
tap, and then they suck the tree dry.
So I think
Okay.
I got something for this. So these guys would live in like a giant redwood forest, that sort of thing. So one of the things I could see working as a sort of regional effect, within 6 miles of that dragon, trees spontaneously generate more sap. He's just that in tune with the forest itself. And then maybe you have multiple like groups or tribes of humanoids in that forest that know it's there. They view it as kind of a deity sort of thing.
Right.
So maybe they go around tapping the trees for it.
Now, here's the thing here's an alternative that I had thrown at me one time. I ran across that dragon one time, and we were hired by a pack of elves to run the damn thing away. Because it was killing, here's the problem. The actual problem came to something different. But the problem the elves were having is the dragon had moved into the core of the forest. And it was drinking from the oldest trees, and it was killing the old trees. And the reason why is because the trees on the outer edge of the forest no longer created enough food to sustain it because the trees were diseased. They'd been cursed by an evil wizard. We had to go cut his throat, bathe in the blood of our enemies and skip with entrails, and then come back and we saved the dragon that way. But it was interesting to me that I was contacted by an elf
Right.
to go kill a dragon. And it was like, what the actual hell? If it had been a red dragon or a green dragon or a black, or we'd have been like, oh, okay. But no, this is actually a fairly, the elf said you really don't have to kill it unless if you can run it off.
Yeah.
They're fairly solitary, so you might just say to hell with it and bugger off if you start chasing him around.
Ooh. So here's your campaign plot arc. Kind of flesh that out a little more. You've got an order of druids that lives in that forest, and there's a blight that is taking over the trees, and they care for that dragon, and they keep the trees healthy so that it can sustain itself, and in exchange, it protects them as well as the forest itself. So that's
Pseudo-symbiosis.
their motivation for contacting the party or whatever, is to try to figure out, they can't leave the area, so they've got to... Are we still on, or? Oh, okay. That's just that thing died. But yeah, so you have this order of druids. They, protect the forest along with the dragon. And yeah, there's some sort of blight maybe caused by some, you pick your bad guy.
Okay.
And so that's why the party is contacted. The druids can't leave the forest. They've got to maintain it. It's a ton of work. Obviously, the dragon's not gonna leave. That's his food supply.
Right.
So you're kind of on your own. So you got to go figure out, where this blight is coming from. What's causing it, all that stuff, and that can lead you on a good chunk of a campaign right there.
What kind of features would a dragon like that create in a quote-unquote lair to stop a party of adventurers that it has not contacted with, but it knows it's dogging its heels, and it's trying to protect? What would it do? Now, see, my first thought, deadfalls.
Oh, I was going to go even better. As a layer action, it can cause sap to ooze from the trees and bind the party. Make a dex save or you get stuck in the ooze.
See, when you say lair action, that's a 5th ed mechanic that I'm not used to, which is okay. One of the things that
It's a layer effect.
which is
Yeah,
fine.
that's-
One of the things that I would do if I were in that particular situation, if I had that same dragon, that same situation, instead of my layer effect, then at that point would be it'd be almost impossible. Like these dragons live in forests that are considered like I don't want to say virgin forest, but it's very, very remote.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought process at that point is that those dragons would probably know the moment you walked within 100 square miles of the damn thing. You know, have you ever heard? God, what was the name of that stupid?
Kind of similar effect to elder brains in illicit layers.
Yeah.
They can sense a humanoid up to 5 miles.
See what there was there was a stupid thing that was on a cartoon or something, where a creature talked about how the wind told you I was here, and you know the trees spoke to me and said you were there. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
The idea with that particular dragon is, I mean, the moment you walk in there and you displace anything because you're not part of that natural surrounding, it would know. There's no surprising that creature at that point.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
There's no sneaking up on it and backstabbing it. Invisibility is useless unless you're invisible, inaudible, and you can release your contact with the ground, and you neutralize your smell, for Christ's sakes. I mean, there's a million and one things there.
Yeah, you better come in ethereal.
Yeah.
Basically.
See, what I'm thinking is that you have a lot of deadfalls. You have a lot of natural rocks that are kind of lying around waiting to pin and trap. With that particular dragon, though, I don't think those traps would necessarily be lethal so much as they would be really, really annoying to deal with, time-consuming.
Well, that's what I was thinking. More a little bit more magical effects as opposed to deadfalls and things like that. Maybe those are stuff that the druids have set up, but you want something maybe a little more magical. So sap oozing from the trees and clogging people up. You've got entangling vines pretty much everywhere, or brambles that come out of nowhere and just engulf the party and keep them from moving very fast.
Or for that matter, you get into the dragon, where the dragon kind of sets itself down and kind of digs into the ground and makes contact and animates the trees and puppeteers the trees to come after that little miniature ints.
Oh, sure, yeah. Maybe it could animate trees. Maybe it could even I had something.
Create Norans, create
huge clouds of mosquitoes.
Oh God.
Because it wants to drive humanoids away. It doesn't necessarily want to kill them. They're not a food source. It doesn't want their treasure. It just wants them to go away. So most of its stuff, I think, would be geared toward
Shoopla, you
that
bother
goal.
me.
Yeah. So, hound them with mosquitoes or birds or, stuff like that. Use tree sap to kind of slow them down, just make it yucky and sticky.
Yeah, classy mess. This is alive.
It is live.
One of the things that we found pretty interesting too, in that same idea that I would use if it was me. Could you imagine being molested night and day and night by a pack of angry, pissed off squirrels?
Right? Yeah. It'd be all kinds of terrible. But there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do with an amber dragon. So there you go.
I mean, that to me is a lair.
From its lair to plot arcs and stuff. I kind of like the idea of maybe I'll throw that in one of my games. But yeah, the whole idea of there's this blight working its way through the forest, and you got to figure out what it is and all that, and maybe that turns into something bigger. Maybe you've just caught the beginnings of something that's gonna be devastating worldwide.
Now, separate issue, separate topic, if you will. Dragons, oddballs. One of my favorite dragons is a pearl dragon. Okay, they live in shallow coastal seas. They're fairly benign. They're nice, but they love pearls.
Right.
Okay. And they love eating oysters. They love seafood. They're not very big, but they're large enough. It's a damn dragon. I could actually see a campaign where a group of islanders, people who live in a medium to large village, perhaps a hamlet, who are fishermen and pearl divers, and they eat seafood, are starving to fucking death because this damn dragon keeps raiding all the oysters, eating all the fish, eating all the crabs and the shrimp, and we can't get it to go away, and it's stealing everything.
Yep. Oh, we've got a question from Gay and Proud.
Uh-oh.
There are... So if you're talking about just the newest edition, 5th Ed, there's not that many dragons in there. It's just your basic, good and evil dragons, and there's like 5 of each type. If you go back further, there's dozens and dozens of different kinds of dragons.
I can think of 38 to 40 right offhand, by the way.
That's a massive amount of
That's a massive amount of different dragons. And there are books I didn't bring. I brought 4 books. There are 5 right offhand I can think of that I could bring, and each one of them has a new kind of dragon. There's a whole scent.
Yeah, that's a ton of them.
Yeah. Oh. Check this out. First of all, just to give you an idea here. This book's got 400 pages in it, okay? And this section of that book represents the basic archetype dragons for the second ed. Okay? These 4 books.
Those ones have even bigger sections of just dragons in them. So.
And these 4 books.
How many books are there in total?
Oh, good God.
For like just D&D in general?
I got a bookshelf
That's a really good, I'd have to Google that.
I got a bookshelf 12 foot wide,
And
it's 8 foot tall, and I could probably stack 3 shelves.
It also depends on what you count in there. There's, it all depends on what you count as D&D books. Are we counting the entire run of Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine, all the periodicals?
Are you talking all the
that?
compendiums that aren't considered part of the core monster set? You know?
Or are we talking just the stuff officially published by, TSR and Wizards of the Coast?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million.
Even then,
one.
it's still a ton of books.
But
even for 5th ed, a friend of mine just got the Kobold Press monster book, and it's that thick.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And TJ was 100% right. There are as many types of dragons as there are breeds of dogs. And they're just about that variety. You get everything from something this big to something that's the size of,
Radiant dragons are really damn huge.
Bahamut's what, 400 feet long?
Yeah, and I think a radiant dragon could swallow him on accident.
Mm-hmm. So that's not a
like that. That's something you legit have to worry about if you for some reason end up in a fight with a radiant dragon. Like it might just swallow your entire spaceship. It's just gone.
Why do you want to fight with one of those damn things I don't know?
Oh, it'd be a terrible idea.
But again, one of those things that I wanted to say again was that, there are all kinds of issues you can use with dragons. I remember one particular campaign that a friend of mine was running, and a friend of mine was running. Some of the players that I knew were playing in it, but they weren't my players. We would sit around and bullshit about D&D like we did, anything else. And the DM presented them with a situation where that was a brass dragon. Brass dragons aren't evil. In fact, they're considered a good dragon. But they're really capricious, and they're really, really fucking greedy and vain. And there was a brass dragon that had created a bottleneck in a trade route. And he was big enough to enforce that bottleneck. And there were 2 paths leading from this one oasis to another one, which was the midpoint between 2 large desert civilizations. And this dragon set up essentially a toll bridge in the middle of the desert between the oases. And if he stopped you long enough at the toll bridge because you couldn't pay, you had to make a hard decision. Turn back, go to the other oases, or stay here any longer and perish from thirst. Because, you carry enough supplies to get from one oasis to another, essentially. And so it's one of those things where this dragon was a good dragon, a goodly dragon, and was ruining the economy for 2 kingdoms.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people who were starving in the streets because of this fucking dragon, wanting, 5 coppers, per half ton of, load of whatever. And it was just ridiculous. And the player characters were in a position where they were not powerful enough to kill said dragon, and they weren't powerful enough to run said dragon away. They had to find a way to make the dragon stop, or to make it viable for everybody to be involved, blah, blah, blah. the decision they made was a little weird in my taste, but whatever. But it was another situation where, again, it's a dragon. It's a good creature, but it's ruining the economy. It's really fucking up the ecology. It's eating all the predators. It's eating all the large prey. You know, there are whole varieties of animals in the desert that are starving to death because of this damn dragon. Because the dragon wasn't native to that area, it came to that area.
Yeah, it's essentially an invasive species at that
Right.
point.
And it's funny because we always tend to treat dragons like, you know, they are eternal, like Apocalypse. No, they don't have to be. Dragons walk in, kick the top of the mountain off, and settle down. Nice lava bath. I think I'll start taxing that kingdom right there. And then all hell breaks loose, and then you need Dirk the dumbass to come and, you know, kill the dragon.
Yep.
But, you know, there are just as many scenarios, in my opinion, like that as there would be otherwise. And that's something I think we don't really think about sometimes. You know, dragons can be a pain in the ass.
For sure. So I had a thought about your pearl dragon scenario. What about flipping that around?
Okay.
So you've got this pearl dragon who's living in a kind of a symbiosis with a coastal village or whatever.
Right.
So it's got to deal with them where it provides them with massive amounts of oysters. They just have to shuck them and then chuck the pearls back. Good deal for both, right? You know, and it eats fish. Sometimes it brings them extra fish or whatever. But they've been doing it this way for hundreds of years, right? You know, that's their entire economy is based on the output of food that dragon brings in exchange for pearls.
Okay.
And then one day it stops.
Why did it stop? What happened to
Well,
our
they
dragon?
don't know.
We can't go down there, but you're adventurers and have wizards. Can
Right.
you go look?
Yep.
That's a lot of things.
Right. But
What's
I think
the
that could be a
solution
fun
to you?
campaign.
Right off the top of your head right now.
Off
Solution.
the top of my head, what's the solution? Maybe the dragon has been pulled away by, I don't know, something. Maybe it was attacked by a dragon turtle and it's injured.
Okay. All right.
And then maybe after a little while, this dragon turtle starts to figure out what was going on. And it comes up with what it thinks is a better idea. It wants gold.
A higher
Your
tax.
boats only go this far if you don't dump treasure in the water. You know, that sort of thing. And so now they've got two problems. They've got this dragon turtle that's an asshole, and they also don't know where.
Well, I haven't met a dragon turtle yet that wasn't an
Well,
asshole.
yeah.
I mean,
But they also don't know where their benefactor is. Their pearl dragon that is gone somewhere. You know, so you've got two different problems to solve, and kind of on a time limit.
yeah. And that could be a lot of fun
Yeah.
in and of itself.
Yeah, you can do some cool stuff with that.
Uh-oh. So, at this point, how many pseudo dragons can you fit in a trench coat?
Depends on the size of the trench coat.
Anyway, so we're about to wrap this up for the week. First of all, I had a fun time covering dragons.
Yeah.
Next week, we are going to do something new. I like the idea of tackling, like when we first started doing the show, we had an idea of a deep dive. I still like the deep dive, okay?
Yeah.
But I like the idea of covering a series of monsters, another set of monsters that I think are terrifically underutilized. Terrifically, well, we only run the show to 11:30, but I'm so glad
Yeah.
you don't want us to keep going. You don't want us to leave. Thanks, by the way, because, man. So we're going to do giants.
Yep. And we can do, there's some DMs now that, have been saying that, don't use dragons, use giants. They're equivalent, like, power level of difficulty, same sort of large sphere of influence type of creature. So they, if you're thinking about using a dragon for something, you can totally drop a giant in there and accomplish really similar things story-wise.
You can also do that without breaking the fucking bank on the treasure. Because, I mean, even a middling dragon treasures a shitload of money. Giants are not quite so well greased in the gold department.
Have you seen what kind of vaults fire giants have?
Doesn't fire giants kiss my ass, okay? That's like saying, oh, that's not a big deal.
Let
They're just
alone a
storm
storm
giants.
giant, yeah.
Oh, go to hell.
Right.
Anyway,
Wait, hill giants really are the only poor ones, right?
Verbeeg.
Yeah.
There's also sand giants, which are desert giants.
Furbolgs are like more, not actual giants.
Furbolgs and verbeegs are two different things.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But that's a topic for next week. I think.
But yeah, I think we could take a couple more questions.
Yeah. Anybody got any questions they
We
want
got
to
a
ask?
little more time. Yeah.
Please.
Not in a
Please,
huge
anything?
hurry. I kind of have to pee, but
Well, go pee. I can answer while you pee.
I could take a couple more questions.
Yeah, please, anybody have a question, please ask. Okay, nobody's writing anything now. I guess we lost them already. But
All right.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from smallest and go to tallest.
How many pseudo dragons can you fit in a turtle dragon? Depends on the size of the turtle dragon.
I'm going to walk over there and wrap that headphone wire around your neck.
If you get one in the right spot, it'll choke.
Now, last time for the evening, everybody go to the YouTubes, go to the Twitches, hit the follow buttons, go ring the bells on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you can. If you can't, no problem. Just follow, hang out with us, and come watch the show. We do enjoy anybody coming in. And remember, anytime you have questions, feel free to ask. If you actually talk to anybody on the Discord, or if you talk to anybody on the channel after the fact and we're not here for the show for whatever reason, and you have a question and you get a hold of somebody who actually is in charge of things, which I think would be Coffee Koi. Yeah, Coffee Koi. If you catch her anytime, you can always leave a question with her. We'll answer the next show. But like I said, we're going to start with giants next week. We're going to go from smallest to tallest. We're going to cover the giant kin, which are the furbolgs, the verbeegs, the Fomorians, that kind of thing. And we won't move into the true giants until probably the second show. So we're going to cover the weirdo small ones. And,
We're going to do the odd ones first?
Yeah, we're going to do oddballs first. Oddballs are
All
fun.
right.
One of the things that I find interesting is that there's it was a very popular set of books on the second edition gaming set of system where they used a lot of the giant kin, a lot. Like there were a lot of them in the book. And it was fun. It was very fun. It was very interesting. It was very different. It wasn't the same old shit over and over and over again. And again, one of the things he said that was interesting was that, yeah, you can take a dragon, remove it from the equation, and toss a giant in instead. And you can amp the challenge rating down that way to make it much more manageable.
Well, you don't need to adjust the challenge rating. You take a red dragon, you swap it out with storm giant, no problem.
Well, yeah.
You're good to go. You just use an equivalent to the type of dragon that you would use there, and you're good to go.
One of the funner aspects, I think, of planning the next show about the giants is I get to go back in the book and I get to review all the giant lore. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of it out there. I think it's an absolute metric fucking ton of giant lore out there. And I'm going to use the same books I had today with the compendiums and the monstrous manual that I've got. And I'm going to dig up the old second edition books, the old first edition books through the MM1, MM2, and the Fiend Folio.
TJ. PC's wanting to loot a giant's gear. Yeah, I just go, it's too big for you. Good luck with that.
Well, let's be perfectly honest, I mean, it's...
If you can swing that, 30-foot tall maul, then...
Oh, yeah. Feel free. Drag that out of the lair and sell it to the local dwarven community. Go ahead. Now, your enterprising wizards on the party go, oh, okay, cool. Reduce.
Yeah. But even then, okay, so it's a 15-foot tall
When
maul.
the glove is a full set of armor, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I can see it, salvaging shit. But, if it's magical at all, once you start taking it apart, it's gonna kill all the things. It's gonna kill all the mojo in it. So.
But again, that's another story, another time. And we're already hit the end of the show time, so I instead of playing out, I think we're just going to call it good.
Yep.
Move along. And again, one more time, please go to YouTube.
Hit the button, do the thing.
Hit the button, ring the bell. What are you doing over there? Oh, yeah, hit Twitch, hit subscribe,
all that stuff.
hit follow, talk to people, send them down, tell them to come watch this stuff.
Mail us a pie.
Yeah.
However you do it.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming by. Yep. And I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with stuff about giants.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.